field. And so he'd like to work with us in doing that. And then the other thing is that he's very interested in getting clients. And so he was interested in us and whether we're going to reinitiate our work on the matching service. So told him that that's not an immediate thing, but that's definitely something that's we're going to return to at some point. So that was cool to get that confirmation there too. YGG is on fire. I don't know if anybody, if you're, I know some of you are spending some time in the labs interest group, but he is like got a lot of ideas that are percolating over there. So it's definitely worth popping over there to just see some of the stuff he's talking about. It's really cool. So one of the latest ones, and there's a link here, but the token engineering Python library is pretty cool idea. I'm not going to go into the details here, but it's worth popping over there and seeing. Yeah, I'm getting kind of excited about the interest groups. Like it does seem to be tapping some. I mean, we'll see how it builds actually over time, but I think just us allowing space for people to come in and just unleash their creativity and start building some kind of natural connections with folks. Yeah, we're starting to get some signs that there may be some real interest here. So that's cool. Any thoughts or comments about any of that?
Yeah, I have a few. First with Prime DAO, I think that's really great. What I'm wondering, and it's not necessarily because of Prime DAO, it's I guess the scope of interest groups. Because ecosystem development seems a bit broad, and I'm not sure if our intention is to open this space for any kind of interest group to come up. Um, I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they were supposed to be like very token engineering oriented. Maybe that's not the case, or maybe there's some um, overlap in ecosystem development. I just don't know about ecosystem development in general. But I guess that's a conversation to have. Like how far can we go with interest groups? That's one. Um, and then with YGG, I love the idea, but I don't know. I think I haven't had any conversation with YGG outside the Open Labs channel, but he's proposed a few things, and he's also expressed the intention of doing something like with not much overhead or nothing too serious. What he proposed yesterday seems like a big project, and so I'm like, where is he really standing on? Um, and because I guess a project like that, like a TE library for Python, would require a lot of input from Sargam and all the um, more expert guys in the field, and more commitment, etc., etc. I'm just not sure. I don't know. He's changing minds quite a bit, and that's it's that. But if we can make it happen, it's so cool. It's okay by me.
Yeah, I'd be interested in other people's perspectives. My take on it is that with the interest groups, maybe for the next little while, we just allow things to be a little bit more open-ended and flexible, just to see what emerges, rather than trying to over-prescribe in the beginning. We can, if we start getting people doing like really random stuff, then I think, part of this will be caught in the application itself, because Bear's put together like a simple process for just applying to set up an interest group. So I think that's part of the way we catch it, just make sure that it actually is aligned with the mission. And as for YGG stuff, yeah, I don't know, but I think that maybe he uses that space as a place to actually coordinate and see if he can build some interest and build some coordination around it before he pulls together a proposal.
Yeah, I think on the YGG stuff, I think it seems like a great project for the TEC, right? I think, the ask was big. And so I think maybe, and I think Gideon, it was you who kind of put like, hey, maybe we do some smaller milestones to kind of get started, or do some exploration, or do some initial work around it. For maybe I think it was one of his other proposals that you suggested, maybe splitting it out. But I think this one that would potentially apply here as well. That's a year-long commitment on an idea that just got floated a couple days ago, right? So breaking that up to some smaller steps. I think would be a good idea, and maybe that's part of the advice process, right? He just floated the idea. I think some discussion around it is good. But as for the actual project, I think that makes a lot of sense from a common goods type development piece aligned with token engineering. So I like the idea, but maybe split it up into some initial research phase with a smaller proposal to get it started. And to your point, that might build some momentum around the industry, or in the industry with some of the other folks, right? Invite some of the other folks and build some momentum to get broader engagement.
Yeah, I think one of the original proposals he had put out there was kind of attacking some of our big fundamental dependencies that we had with questions around the bonding curve and the migration of it to potentially a new chain. And I'm not sure if that still stands in his mind in terms of priorities. I know he mentioned it, but I do think it's really important on the priority list. If that's something he's looking to do in terms of getting funding for a project to focus on, I would definitely back that type of initiative.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting development, and I think this is the way things are going to go in future. I fully support, like, once we have a bit more clarity, and I would say that we do need other token engineers to actually, have a look at it, see if it would actually be useful, rather than like spending 90K straight away. But given the Token Engineering Academy, YGG, a couple of other proposals which I know are already in the works that sort of are turning towards the same idea, it seems like a strategic move for the TEC is going to be to start asking money from everywhere, like now, and kind of reflowing, being that regranter, and us starting to the coordination team starting to move toward that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. There was one post that YGG had in there where he kind of laid out the three things that seem to be brewing in this on the front of actual doing token engineering. And one was moving the ABC over to a different chain. Other is the Gardens 2.0, and then the other is this library idea. And it does seem like it's going to be hard to fund all three of these things. So there's going to have to be some conversations probably about like how we prioritize. So we're going to get into in a sec this strategic planning. But I think that we need some ways to be able to talk about these kind of like where the overall priorities are, and make sure that the projects, I think it would be great if the projects that we're funding also fit in with the overall strategy. So how we do that in a way that doesn't over dictate that'll be a challenge.
I don't just mean YGG, and I don't just mean the Token Engineering Academy. As in, I've had conversations with others that are looking to do the same, and it's like, okay, now every token engineer wants to ask for money from the TEC. What do we do then? It's like YGG is not an isolated person kind of bringing forth a lot of ideas. is essentially what I'm saying.
Yep. Understood. Yeah, I don't know what those other ones are, but yep.
One thing, one small thing you said about prioritization and now Rex with all the interest. I'm just wondering whether if we should try to um, maybe not now. I don't think there's much time before the end of the year, but try in January to actually start having more regular conversations with our advisory network, let's say, and start to formalize that because it's going to be hard for us to understand to grasp the reality of the ecosystem and prioritize whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
It might well be that some of maybe YGG's idea isn't fully funded by us, but maybe, I don't know, 50-50 with block science. I don't know, something like that, in order to actually dampen the if we can get to that point. But yeah, it needs. It's not going to pass as it stands. Whatever we do, it needs a lot more clarity. But that comes with time.
Sounds like a great use case for the proposal inverter. I want to just throw in a few 2 cents too, because YGG has a reputation in the TEC. He's been a steward for a very long time, stewarding the TEC labs. So, I just read through. I hadn't seen it until now. I hadn't read through the labs. I'm seeing the proposal for this library, which sounds really exciting. I would tend to agree with the sentiment on this call, though, that it seems as if it's not in the ready to be submitted for proposal. And I also think it's unusual for us to sort of fund a salary for a year in advance. So that's something I might not be sure would be the right way to go, or it would be would pass in the TEC. But in general, YGG is full of enthusiasm, very well connected, and is really able to manifest things happening. He's had number of different courses in the TEC in his labs, and has had wide audiences, and drew a lot of attention to the work that he was doing here. So just a testament to his reputation and his ability to bring in lots of people from different areas, not just from people in TEC, but to bring people from different areas to come and then do research on the TEC's Discord. But it's super, super interesting. And he's very high energy, as everyone knows. He's super high energy and has lots of ideas, and is just one of the people that executes well on the ideas that he has.
Yeah.
Walker, did you?
Yeah. I also want to second Tam on this, that YGG is amazing. And I don't know about the structure of the funding, but this idea of having like a Python library of token engineering tools is amazing. I know that some of the things that we've developed are like a mile, or not like a mile, a small step for becoming usable for everyone. And that, for example, the config dashboard only needs a small tweaking to work with different hedge funds and with different supply. So I think that this could also like continue some of the work that was done in the past. And yeah, this would help directly the mission of being able to enable ethics, safe, resilient economies.
Okay. Well, I think that we can use that space, the lab space, to essentially help YGG with an advice process. I think that's a great use for that space. It does seem, based on some of the stuff that Rex is saying, I think that we're all saying, the common pool, things may get tight because we've got the academy, funding the academy, and we've got the operations team, and then we're gonna be getting some more requests for public goods support. So I am hoping that we're going to be able to, as part of the strategy, really concentrate on how we make the common pool stretch. And I think there are a lot of ideas on that front, but that's becoming clearer to me that that has to be a central part of our strategy, is the common pool. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next topic? Okay, so next topic, this is just a small project, but ACID and NT and I are working with Stefan, who is the consultant who's working with the Giveth Galaxy on Twitter strategy. And one of his recommendations, we're making a few changes to things, but one of the things he thought would be really good is like a pinned tweet that is just explaining what in the heck token engineering actually is. We all thought that was a good idea. And so the challenge is, I think this may be a longer term project. It would be great. I have this desire to actually open that up to the crowd longer term, like really come away with like a really great definition of what token engineering is by like consulting people like Zargam and others, Trent and Angela and others, to kind of come up with like a crowdsourced definition and explanation of what token engineering is. I think that would be a really great thing for the TEC to have as part of our like a Medium post or something. But in between then and now, I think it would be great to just have like a simple thread on Twitter explaining just like basically what token engineering is. So we're not going to go into that here, but what I wanted to do is just open it up and see if there are folks here on the call. I know NT is going to be involved in that, but if there are folks on the call who would be interested in helping out with shaping that, please say so right now, and we'll rope you in. Or if you have people you think we should consult and get advice process on for that tweet thread. Okay, well, we will take a crack at it and do the best we can, and maybe just use it as like an interim thing for now, and while we're working for the longer one. Yeah, maybe what we'll do is put it on the coordination channel for feedback once we've got something. Any thoughts, comments on this before we go to the next one? Okay. So for these calls, what I'm thinking is that we change the pace of these. This is building on some of the stuff that Bear was talking about earlier, a couple weeks ago, in terms of like the pattern of our coordination. One of the things I've been noticing is that these calls, we don't quite have like enough for these calls, these kind of like higher level focus things to warrant 2 calls, I think. And one of the things that we've been running into is on Thursday in the sample calls, we're kind of routinely running out of time. And so I think there's just this general sense I'm feeling right now that what we should do is use this call, the Tuesday call, is the call, and this was what Bear outlined in the original proposal, is like this is the call where we're keeping things fairly high level, keeping things open for new ideas to come in to the mix, like new projects and things, and also like updates on what's happened with past projects. but then really basically take the Thursday call, this coordination call, and combine it with the Sampo call that comes right after this as like a 2-hour focused call that's really much more about implementation and execution, like really getting into the details of actually doing the work, coordinating, also reviewing existing projects, that kind of stuff. So both calls will be open to everybody, but if you're short on time, and especially if you're not in the active contributors, I mean, if you're not in the coordination team, but you really want to help, but like you're limited on time, the idea would be this call would be the first priority, like where we really want everybody to plug into, and like we'll try to build more attendance for these calls and keep them focused on kind of higher level objectives and new ideas, and then reviewing the existing ideas, that like the status of projects, and then take the Thursday time, combine it into one session that's 2 hours, and really focus it more on implementation and getting us set up so that like we're reviewing past projects, the focus is reviewing projects, it's getting projects that are in the works unstuck if they're stuck, giving space for people who are running projects to brainstorm with the rest of implementers, and then also kind of teeing us up and planning for the following weeks, and making sure that these calls are well organized and we've got the right agendas and stuff set up, and well, basically just organized. So that's what I'm thinking. I'd like to get some feedback from folks if there's any.
I like it. I'm a big fan of focusing on Thursday and having less macro talk. So I think this schedule works out.
All good.
Yeah, I also share the same feeling. I think this could be of good benefit for the piece of the calls.
Okay. Seems like general consensus there, so that's what we'll do. Okay. Last thing that I've got, and I see, Honka, you'd like to take a little time to demo the Gravity page, and there's something about give launch.
Sure.
But wait, before we do the demo, let me just say the last thing I wanted to talk about is strategic planning. So we're going to we've still got a handful of things we're working on that we promised as part of the proposal for the coordination team. So those things we've still got another probably month or so of work in like terms of like getting our accountability structures. There's some stuff probably. There were just a number of questions we've talked about before, like integration with praise, the stewards, like what is the future of stewards, although that may end up stretching a little bit longer. So there's some of those things, but one of the things that I've been thinking about, and Bear's been thinking about this with me and starting to kind of float this with others, is that the thing that we've all been kind of longing for a while now is we've been calling it like a roadmap, but I think it's really a strategy for the TEC. And so when we pull together the funding plan for the coordination team, probably in February is when we'll start to run out of funds for this team. I would like to make strategic planning like one of the big deliverables that we do in that initial, basically we're thinking about a season of the coordination team. So starting in probably late February, early March, with a little bit of pre-work before then, doing a strategic plan for the TEC, and doing that, in a way that's not just like a small team of people like coming up with a strategy, like putting in place some processes where we can actually go out to the field, to the stakeholders, the broad set of stakeholders of the TEC, and build some sustainable processes while we're doing this that will allow us to get ongoing feedback. So you can think of this as kind of like this advisory network, actually starting to build that out and building in some feedback loops so that we get that continuous feedback. The other thing I wanted to mention is that in my last work, my last job, we ended up using this technique that was really helpful for us in terms of focusing. For a mission-driven organization, this idea of a theory of change is a really powerful tool for focusing the collective energy of a network of people. And so the theory of change approach often goes hand in hand with another set of tools called logic models. These techniques are really very popular in the nonprofit world and the philanthropic world, where you've got to think about how change happens in the world and how structure change and how you make sure that you're actually having impact in the work. So it's a great set of tools for thinking about that. And so I will, over the next month or so, we'll be pulling together just some resources on that, just simple stuff so we all understand what that process looks like and can assess. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a very valuable set of tools. And I've done it once. It's hard work, but it's super rewarding because at the end you end up with a very clear shared picture of not just what matters most, but actually the logical structure, the set of assumptions that will help you to understand, like, if we do this, then that will lead to this, and that in turn will then lead to this. And so it kind of helps to structure in a logical framework what things the organization has to do in order to achieve a specific set of desired outcomes. So let me just stop there for a second and just pause and see if people have thoughts or comments. And also, like, I'm assuming this is something that everybody's going to want to be involved in. And so I guess, well, I'm just going to assume that. But thoughts and comments on that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna definitely second that. I would agree that coming up with a strategic plan should be one of or probably the most important priority going forward, because it will also define how we go about the different initiatives that start coming up and how do we align them with the overall objective that the TEC and the vision that the TEC has, right? So for me, that's like the umbrella that will cover everything we do. And if we can come up with a way of doing it collectively, I think that's just going to be super innovative and super yeah, it's going to be a really rich, full experience for everyone that I think will allow us also to create a sense of ownership and belonging of the TEC, because we will share that same purpose and that same way in which we will achieve whatever we do, right? So yeah, just seconding on that, and yeah, it's great. Excited for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a really the big conversation I think is really important is this kind of balancing between wanting to fulfill our mission by advancing token engineering and making sure that the commons is maintaining the longevity of the commons and making sure it's sustainable in the long term. And I think we lean towards token engineering very hard, and we really haven't put as much thought into preserving and maintaining longevity of the commons as much. And so I think that a strategic roadmap towards that would be very, very, very beneficial for us.
So just so I understand this correctly, so I remember NT kind of set out sort of a roadmap a couple of weeks back. What's the difference? Is this a higher level than was set out, or a continuation of kind of those steps, and actually making that roadmap concrete?
So what I would say is that the things that NT was outlining were some really interesting ideas, like the conference is a really interesting idea. What this is bigger. This is basically coming up with like a frame that helps us answer these big questions about, like, who are the stakeholders, who really are the people we're trying to serve, what is the change that we really want to see in the world, 5 years out. What does that look like? If the TEC wildly succeeds, what will that look like? What will shift in the world as a result of us being successful? So it's laying that out. And then it's also laying out a process for us to be able to get feedback from, it's not just like the, 4, 5, 6 people on the coordination team. Like, that's not good. Like, we can't, I think we need to be able to move quickly, but we need some kind of like bigger container through which we're getting feedback from the field about what people actually really care about. Like, what will be the things that move the needle in terms of change when it comes to token engineering.
Okay, great. That makes sense. I'm not sure whether we should be looking really at 5 years, but I guess that's sort of like an idea rather than spending much time on that. I assume, given the structure of the course, that this is going to run in parallel to like existing projects, so it won't be a showstopper. I understand that it's needed and it's like big words, but I'm also worried that it's gonna kind of be setting out another process of a process, and I'm very much on the camp of let's try things and like do it with less process. Yeah.
So there's this saying of being able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And so we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to keep going and executing on the stuff we know that we need to do. And even taking the stuff that we're doing right now and stretching that out a little bit, be able to say, like, okay, we're going to try a few new things that are just extensions of what we're doing right now. But at the same time, we also have to be able to answer these bigger questions. We need to be able to say pretty clearly, when we're working on Twitter, who exactly are we trying to attract? We don't really have clear answers to that right now. And that causes us to make changes and not know where to invest our long-term resources. So, it may be, Rex, that this is like an exercise that not everybody's going to want to participate in. I totally get that. And so, we'll figure out ways to make sure that we can keep moving forward. We have to, and not get stuck, operationally, but then create space for, yeah.
The thing with Twitter specifically is that the approach is upside down. It isn't trying to find a target audience and tailor to them. It's doing a plethora of content, seeing what sticks, and from what sticks, you find your target audience. And it's like the process for Twitter is upside down. So there is I'm gonna say right now that I probably won't. I'll stay out of this process, and I'm. Do we have any idea on sort of the timelines onto which like this is going to be completed, or are those still to be set out? Is this going to be a process that takes 2 weeks, a month, or is it going to take us till next February?
Don't know at this point. But Rex, I mean, I think it's fair to say that there are different philosophies on how to plan and how to actually make decisions. What we have not tried in the TEC, at least since I've been here, is laying out some kind of vision of like, I mean, there's a vision. Actually, the vision is really cool. The MVV I think is really great. It's just the thing that many people have been asking for over the last several months is a roadmap. And we've been missing that. And so not everybody, like you may not value a roadmap, but I think there is like a strong desire from a number of people to know where we're headed. And so
one thing's a roadmap and the other's a framework for a roadmap. So we're talking about a framework for a roadmap, which, I mean, till the framework for the roadmap is set out, like, is that going to block the roadmap? Or is it necessary to have such a concrete framework? Or can both of those also be done in parallel? Can we set out an initial roadmap, a la what we already, using what we already know as we set out this framework, and then amend that roadmap as we make this vision more concrete? Or is that also a waste? Is that gonna be like double the work?
Can I just share some thoughts on what I've been hearing? Yeah. I think that there's a few things that are sort of conflating, right? This idea of how we want to do strategic planning, which, I'm not familiar with theory of change, but I think that if that is the way that, if that's something we can try, I'm always up for trying new ways of developing strategy. So I think it's very interesting to give that a try. But I also, there's a few things like when we were first talking, I was thinking, oh, are we talking about the stakeholder mapping that Livia was discussing to sort of like get to know the needs of token engineers? I personally feel like we know who our Twitter audience is. We know who the token engineers are that we want to speak to. I don't think that's really what we want to get at. I think it's more of, hey, what does token engineering really need? And how can the TECs really support this field? And, Livia proposed doing a stakeholder interview and trying to get some sort of, current mapping of what the priorities are for working token engineers and different projects. But I guess I don't have any, I had a very interesting conversation with Christopher recently, and we were talking about MVV, and he put on my radar something called, what is it called? Like, it's the central idea. This is sort of like central idea for how board meetings can evaluate the organizations they're working with better. And I think that this is a little bit what maybe Rex is even coming to. It's not really about the mission, vision, value. It's like, why does it exist? Who does it serve? How should it, how will it flourish? How will it make money and manage risk? And where is it going? And all of these things sort of conflated into like the that's the strategic direction. And I think that we need some methodology to agree on to get to this strategic direction where we have this final result where we are aligned on how we're getting there. And my personal feeling is if we give this a try, the theory of change a try to get there. It might be a smaller group that really wants to dig into that stuff, but I think it's a good idea to have some methodology to figure out how to get there.
Right. I mean, I know I'm sounding very sort of pessimistic of it all. As always, I'm a very pessimistic man. It's just is how it is. I don't want to drag anyone else down in this. I support doing this. I'm just ask for like have some sort of the roadmap for the roadmap. Don't spend too much time on it, but like it's all very big picture. So unless we stick some times on this, we're just gonna spend till next February till we have something, and by that point we'll need to and probably don't want to spend that much time. Like not till February. We do want to spend enough time so that it's useful, but not so much so that it undermines the roadmap itself.
Understood. Rex, I mean, it sounds like I'm arguing with you. I am a little bit, but I understand the sentiment. Like, better to do 80-20, like get it 80% there and not perfect, but wrap it up, like, and then move on. And then, then figure out what's the next thing, right? And just keep moving. So I want to make space for others just in case other people have other comments on it.
Yeah, I just want to add something again. Sorry, Bear, and it's more about this. I think there is the real piece of work to do is what Livia suggested is to go out and survey what the real needs are for token engineering, and as our mission is to support that. I say that's the thing we really don't know. We can build a roadmap about what we think we want to do, but until we go out and we talk to everyone and we pull in the priorities, and then we're like, okay, these are the things that we can help support. I feel like that there is work to do before we have a real roadmap, and that is, my credit to Livia. She really identified exactly what we need to do.
I would just say that in my mind, I think the intention of this is also not to always stay in the high level stuff and just stay there for a year and not do anything else. I think the intention is the total opposite, is to have these higher level strategies, higher level vision and objectives to be able to land it into everyday's activities and operations. But that everything we do every day, every week is aligned to that bigger goal. And when I say bigger goal, I wouldn't just stay on the level for what are the needs of token engineers. I think for me a pretty clear example of like a symptom that we're still missing something is this small project for the Twitter thread that is, what is token engineering really? I think that's one of the signs that are saying, maybe not everyone fully understand what is token engineering, So maybe there's still some higher level strategy to figure that out and to be able to make it understand by everybody. And to do that, I think I would go even higher into this level, is to, why are we doing token engineering? What problem are we trying to solve as token engineers or as the TEC? What actual problem in the world are we trying to solve? If we are able to define that, to really make everyone share that same purpose of why token engineering exists, then everything else becomes way easier, and it's way easier to align and to find the people that we are trying to help and the needs that we're trying to cover. But I feel that these two higher level questions are still yet to be defined. I feel that a lot of people already have some sort of definition, but that's kind of like the problem, because we all understand different things by it, and we all have like different reasons probably why we think token engineering exists. But part of the TEC, at least for me, and part of this strategy, the intention of it is to be able to figure those questions first.
If I may just interrupt very quickly before we end, I think it's a matter of making compromises, because there's a lot of things we know, but we just haven't looked at. Like, for example, what Tam said about the Twitter, like the I don't remember the word, but like the target. Um, we know what's the target. We may not have it on a document, but we know what's the target. What happened is that until now, no one has ever looked at the analytics of Twitter, for example, and same with everything. Once you start to interact with a few people outside the TEC, you clearly view the necessities, what's happening, what's the whole ecosystem up to, and it's a matter of defining how do we capture that, but start to capture that because everyone else is moving while we are thinking about how to. And it's important to have the how to, but we also have we really need to be able to deliver, to be a bit more agile on how do we do stuff, because a lot of that stuff is there. If it's not us, someone else is going to do it. I guess I was going to say another thing, but I forgot. Yeah, just I think we can work on a few things in the meantime. But I think it's important to have to map out the necessities of the ecosystem, and also to understand what is everyone's sort of expectations here, or what is everyone sort of excited about, and then just try to put everything together into this strategic plan and start working towards that.
Okay. So we need to wrap up. It's now a minute after. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Juanca, I'm sorry we did not get to the showing your the website for Gravity. Can we do that next Tuesday? Is that okay?
Sure, but I do want to speak just 10 seconds about the Give Power launch. That's a broader community who is also deploying a new step of their protocol. And it's really big. And I pasted their partner support guide so that we can like all retweet and also deposit our Give Power in one of the projects that are there. And yeah, on the roadmap, I think it's super important, and I think that we won't get the roadmap in this call with the amount of people that we have, and that what Tam and Livy says of having like a stakeholder survey and a token and a token holder signaling will be super important on this. That's my take.
And Juanca, where did you paste the Give a thing? Did you put that in the coordination channel?
I pasted in the agenda. It's Give Power launch partner support guide, and yeah, from the TC, we haven't reposted, retweeted. So yeah, who has access to that can do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your day / night, and we'll talk. So going forward, this will be the main call. Tuesdays will be the main call, and of course, people are welcome on Thursdays too, but it'll be a lot more focused. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.